being select on the clients has definitely been a big catalyst in change.
But I think that's not feasible for most people because usually they're coming from another job or starting their company. Actually, those clients that are hard work, they don't appreciate what you're providing. They suck your energy, they really drain you, and they can make you feel quite bad at certain times. There's nothing wrong with saying no to somebody as long as you're doing it with kindness and love.
Many business coaches and advisors, or even business owners, when you ask them what would you do differently if you were to start again, they go for what I do is I take only the amazing clients right from the start. And actually my thing is called bullshit. They needed to learn to bring him not problems because he didn't know how to fix them, but solutions. When I've used those two methodologies together, I get far less problems being brought to me.
So it's always going to suck your time up and they're never going to learn from it.
Give a man a fish and he won't go hungry today. Teach a man to fish and he won't go hungry ever. And that's that concept, yeah?
Hi there, and welcome to the Leaky Bucket podcast. I'm your host, Ian Morgan, and this is the Financial Performance Podcast for entrepreneurs looking to get a better understanding of their numbers, to plug the leaks in their business, and to move from surviving to thriving.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Leaky Bucket podcast. So as per normal, I've got Sam here with me, and we're going to go through our normal processes, and we're going to kick things off with the leak of the week. The leak is actually something that I picked up from a conversation with a client. The client needs to remain nameless, but we'll just call him John. And I have regular coaching calls with John. And the last time we spoke, basically John had taken some good finance when it was available at a very low interest rate. So I had multiple six figures from this finance just sat within an account, but not yet had been used because the business was doing really well. In the conversation I had with him sort of 3 months ago, it was right, actually, business is struggling a little bit. We lost a couple of clients because of issues that have happened their end, like the client's end. And we should use that to invest and move forward. Fast forward to this conversation, clients still got all the money in the bank. So actually, first things first was like, hang on, like what happened? Like you said you were going to use that money. And it was like, oh, okay, well, we got a huge client which doubled our income overnight. Oh, brilliant. And he was like, yeah, hang on. It's not. The level that they moved into just meant that actually they moved to a client that when they stood back and looked at it on reflection, they probably went, actually, we expected that they would want these things, but they didn't build that into it. And actually, it probably would have made sense that they had found 3 or 4 clients of the smaller size they were serving before rather than this particular one, because of bringing up challenges and difficulties. And had meant this is a business that ran a 4-day work week, and that's sort of roughly gone at the moment. It's gone to a 5-day work week, and it's just presented some extra challenges within their business. So we're quite advocates of making sure that you pick the right people that you're working with, and that, yes, money's a drawer sometimes, and you can get excited by that. But I think, Sam, you'd agree that us being select on the clients that we work with and removing the wrong fit ones and making sure the right fit ones get in has definitely been a big catalyst in the change of.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when your business is smaller and you're getting it to the stage that you want it, I think there's always a degree that you'll have clients that you're not as keen on, or you maybe go slightly outside the scope of what you intended to, etc. But ultimately, once you get to that position that you're stable with stable with what your profits are, etc., at that point, that provide you with your home lifestyle, then at that point is usually the occasion that for a company it becomes absolutely the right time, if you haven't done it already, to be bringing in only clients that are the right fit. So saying no to clients that aren't the right fit for you. And as you get more of those in, you can then sack off, get rid of, whatever you want to call it, move on, sell off, the clients that are not the right fit for you. I think ideally you do it right from the start, but I think that's not feasible for most people because usually they're coming from another job or whatever when they're starting their company, or maybe they've got other companies that can support it, and that's slightly different. But on the whole, it becomes a point where you can actually do that, and that's certainly what we did. I think it changes things from a mental point of view for you, that actually those clients that are hard work or moan, or you just generally don't get on with, to be honest, or they don't appreciate what you're providing, they suck your energy, they really drain you, and they can make you feel quite bad at certain times. And I think that has an impact on the other things you're doing in your company. So I think it's hugely important to work out the clients that you want, what are the good fit clients, and make sure you stick to that. There's nothing wrong with saying no to somebody, as long as you're doing it with kindness and love, and you're doing it because of your reasons, and you're not just generally being rude. Then there is nothing wrong with saying no to somebody that you don't want to work with them, or you don't want them as a client.
Yeah, I like the fact actually, some you picked up on a really key point. I think many business coaches and advisors, or even business owners, when you ask them the question, you go, great, what would you do differently if you were to start again? They go for big dramatic impacts like that and go, oh, if I started again right now, then what I'd do is I'd take only the amazing clients right from the start. And actually, often my thing is called bullshit, and go, actually, you're not remembering what your situation you were in when you started the business. What you're thinking is, go, actually, I've got myself to a degree of financial security and comfort and everything now. So if I started again, I've already got the luxury. I could say no to those people. But actually, if you remember back to when we started a business in particular, we wouldn't have had that luxury.
Oh, no, definitely not. I think there's a grey area to it, isn't there, as such? Because I think what happens sometimes with particularly business coaches, we've experienced it with, if you like, I suppose, that if we were to start another company now and keep the company we've got, then we already have the financial backing there to support that company, that we would only need to take on the right fit clients from get-go. But the reality is that's a false sense of what the setup is. If we were to say to other people that's what we'd done, because the reality is we can only do that because of our original company. So if you took all the companies away, then we would be taking whatever clients you could at that point, and you would have to get to the stage where you were happy to narrow those down and have just the right fit clients, because ultimately you have to ensure that you've got the finances there before you can do that.
Yeah, brilliant. So I want to move on to the epic win of the week. And I'm just going to leave it as a little drop of a headline, which is you got yourself a new MacBook. Doesn't sound like a great deal of a win. Do you want to talk us through it?
No, and I think it probably isn't a great deal of a win as such. Actually, it has a massive impact on the company. So I've been having some issues with my MacBook Pro for a period of a few weeks, and it's been creating a few frustrations with it. And I think sometimes we probably persevere with things like that for a bit too long, sort of thing. And actually it was causing the fact that it was causing issues for my work, and it was making things significantly longer, definitely frustrating me. We went to
I think before you go into where you went to, I think actually it's worth noting, actually you weren't expecting these issues, right? This MacBook's 18 months old, maybe 2 years. And certainly the expectations that we've had from previous, because we've got a number of them, but there's some that are still going 5, 6, 7 years on, and there's no issues. So we weren't expecting to be a problem. And this isn't like this is an end of life MacBook. You're using something relatively new, relatively high spec. Yeah. So
yeah,
unexpected issues probably.
Yeah, I mean the laptop was overheated. One of the issues was the fact that it was severely overheating to the point that you actually couldn't physically touch it at points. Certainly wouldn't want to have it on your lap or anything. If you've got it on a desk, it really getting hot. The fan's working a lot. We tried doing lots of bits to it to sort of completely reset it and stuff, but it did have some other issues setting in. But like Ian said, I wasn't expecting there to be problems with it at this point. Anyway, we tried lots of different bits with it, and it was causing frustrations. It's annoying that it wasn't particularly old, so you're sort of like, you don't really want to replace it, etc. It's sort of in that middle ground, if you like, of what to do over it. We decided to go for a bit of a shopping day with the girls at the weekend, and we ended up going into Apple, and ultimately I came out with a new MacBook. And actually, the reason it's the epic win of the week is because this week has felt so much better. You know, the other MacBook we can still try and get some bits sorted with that. But it means it's taken the big stress off me of the fact of I'm not great with tech in terms of those bits if something goes wrong with it. So it was causing me a lot of frustration and annoyance. And I was like pestering Ian in order, because I was like, why is it overheating again? It's burning on the thing. It's boiling hot. It's shut down because it says it's too hot. I can't do these bits of work because of it. So actually, the epic win is getting that MacBook, and meaning that the stress was relieved straight away. The work, I could do the work bits. One of the stresses of my reasons of not getting a new one was the fact that they take ages to set up. But actually, that was eradicated by the fact this time when I opened the MacBook, it simply offered that it could just transfer it across from my other one. And it did, and it was all done. I haven't had to do anything other than logging into a few things. I've not had to do anything on it. The other reason this is an epic win for me is everybody loves it. Wow, I think most people do. I certainly love like a new product. It's nice to have a new one. So that's definitely an epic win of just having a new one. But actually, I went for a larger screen. So we have wide screens that we work on, wraparound screens in the office and our home offices anyway. But because I'm doing school runs, etc., I often have bits where I will sit in a coffee shop and work, and I tend to prefer that environment anyway. I don't tend to like to be sat on my own working in the office, so I like to have a bit of noise and stuff. So I've gone for a larger screen, and I've just found it's a game changer this week. Absolutely love it. I can split my screen in the middle and easily be able to do multiple different things when I need to see different figures, etc. Yeah, definitely a game changer. So whilst frustrating of having the issues with it and maybe having to replace it before it's time, definite game changer of having that larger screen. It's made a massive difference to me being able to do the work, and that's what I thought until I got it. And then like, this is awesome.
Yeah, but I think in reality, I do far less work from the actual laptop as such. Like I'm always, I prefer being sat in silence and on my own.
And fairness, if you do work out of a coffee shop, you tend to take a second screen that you plug in, and you'll quite happily sit there with two screens. I would not do that. Definitely not. Because I'd be like, people are going to look at me all funny, like, why she brought a whole other screen that she's set up and stuff? Just have a bigger laptop.
If it was more transportable, I'd take my massive wide screen, like meter wide.
Oh, not surprisingly.
No.
Yeah, I'd definitely sit on a different table to you then. I'd be like, I don't know who he is.
Right, moving on. Pick of the week. And I decided for me this week that I wanted to, it's not a book. It's not a book I don't think I've actually read, right? But I recommend the book a lot because I went to some various webinars and teachings that reference the book quite regularly. And the book is Turn the Ship Around by David Marquette. And the scope of the book is basically that once he qualified and was able to be a captain of a submarine, he was actually given the worst performing submarine within the fleet. And he was only given a limited amount of time in order to turn the ship around, to make it a much more performing ship. The problem is that when he arrived on that submarine, it was not the submarine that he trained upon. So therefore, he didn't know how to actually operate it. But that ended up being the blessing, because that meant that actually he had to then build leaders within his team, and they needed to learn to bring him not problems because he didn't know how to fix them, but solutions. And it's a 3-step process ultimately that he's developed out of that for being a more effective leader yourself. And that's like, don't get your team to bring you problems. Or I don't think any of us get them actually to bring us problems. They just bring us problems, yeah. But it's actually to go, okay, great. Rather than bring me a problem, what you need to do is you need to come to me and you say, I intend to, and whatever it is you intend to do. And then to go, great. And the next stage of that is, okay, and what do you think that I'm thinking? Yeah, so you intend to do X, but actually based off the back of that, and you've given me probably all these positives because that's what you intend to do. My reaction is now, yeah, but what's the negatives? Yeah, so you need to be thinking in my shoes to go, what are the negatives? And then based off all of that and the conversation that's ensued, you go away going, what actions are you now going to go and take? And we also use, I think it's the Van Hooser teachings of the 6 levels of empowerment, yeah, like the different levels you move through. I've recommended it a lot lately because I think I've just heard a lot of people going, actually, lots of people are bringing me problems. And certainly when I've used those two methodologies together, I get far less problems being brought to me. It doesn't even mean sometimes a little bit blunt to go, hang on, if all you're doing is bringing me a problem, but you should know how to fix this, like go away, like unless you have some suggested solutions that don't want to talk. Yeah, what's your sort of thoughts, input?
Yeah, so I think the issue is predominantly, not all the time, but I think predominantly people that are, yeah, when they're coming to you with issues, etc., actually they don't want your input on it or your help necessarily on a lot of the things. Actually, what they want you to do is just resolve it for them, just take it off their hands and resolve it. And I think that's fundamentally the problem, because your workload just ends up, not you specifically, but like in general, the workload just ends up larger. We did have it for a period of time with somebody we've brought on in the last year. And instead of looking into things or research or trying to find something sort of thing, it's just straight away dropping a message across to whoever within the team and just sort of expecting them to send them the information and resolve the problems, that they could just get on with it. And actually, whilst that's sometimes easier for the person that's being asked the question, it doesn't stop it happening in the future. So several months down the line, when you're still getting those same bits, and you might have even had that same question, like, a document they're looking for example, and you just send them that document rather than telling them where to find it or making them go find it in that place, then actually you might end up with a case that 3 or 4 times within a period of time, you're sending that same document across to them, because actually you haven't taught them any other way. So it's always going to suck your time up and they're never going to learn from it. So I think what we do within the company, and we do it in our personal life as well, is we give that person the tools in order to find the information themselves. If they can't find it, even if I had to go and find something myself, I would give them the steps that I followed to find it. I wouldn't just send them the document. So they still had to go through the process, because it's still taken their time to do it. And therefore, they're less likely to come to me next time and go, can you send me that document? Because they know that I'm not just going to send it. They're going to have to follow steps. So they might as well go and get it themselves.
Yeah, I think there's an old saying, isn't there? Like, give a man a fish and he won't go hungry today. Teach a man to fish and he won't go hungry ever. And that's that concept, yeah? Like, actually, the easy answer is just to go, oh, here's a fish. Yeah, or here's the answer.
Yeah.
It's much, much harder to go, okay, let me teach you how I got to that point that I got the fish. It's a longer haul to get there, but actually the rewards are much bigger when you do get there, because now actually what you're able to do is stand back and go, okay, well, now only come to me if there's a problem when it's not working, but tell me what you've already tried and what you think you're going to try. Not just come to me to go, I tried fishing, it didn't work.
Yeah.
That doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, I think a famous one that we use within the company all the time is when somebody asks or something or comes to us with an issue, and we'll go, okay, so what do you think we should do about this? And they go, I don't know. Well, come back to me when you do know what you think should happen about this. Invariably, it's never outside of their scope within their role, so it's something they deal with. So they should be able to have at least an opinion on what should happen with it. Because I think when someone comes to you with something like that, they are expecting you to just take it off their hands. Yeah, and that we get less and less of that now. It's predominantly only with new people coming in, because they're not used to that type of environment.
Buzz of the week, Sam. Kids are back at school.
They are, yeah. Kids are back at school. So it's a bit of a mixed feeling one for me. I actually love having the kids at home and doing stuff with them and things. And this summer holidays wasn't quite the same as our usual ones. We normally spend a lot of time with the kids, but obviously work-wise, as we discussed previously, that wasn't quite the case this summer holidays. But yeah, they're back at school now. It's nice to have a structure back in place. I prefer having the structure of times. So I've got my set working times, because when the children are off, it's a bit definitely flexy over that period, which obviously we're trialing across through the team anyway. But yeah, mine is definitely very flexy over the summer holidays. But yeah, it's nice to have them back in school, but it is also nice when they're at home. I think it does make work easier when they're in order to do it. But I definitely like having the kids around and doing activities with them, playing games, etc. I think what's the effect have on you of the kids being back at school?
I think it's easier for me when they're at school. I think it's that structure. I think because it's hard to think back actually to previous summers, but certainly this summer, I've had quite an intense workload. So I've had to keep working. That's been challenging and difficult when I can hear you guys going off and doing something, and I'm going to go, oh, I could get involved. And you go, yeah, but the knock-on effect of that at the moment doesn't work. So this time in particular, it's felt a relief element in terms of it's probably very selfish view, I suppose, in terms of my own jealousy element to go, oh, I'm not getting time off. I'm stuck doing work that I don't want to do realistically. Yeah, I can do it, but I don't want to do it. It's not where my level of genius is. Yeah. So yeah, I think for me,
Trust you to call yourself a junior. That does not surprise me in the slightest.
you're never going to do it, so I need to do it. So yeah, for me, structure brings back a bit of routine, get some clarity in terms of where all those bits are at. So for me, this time it's felt like a positive move. Yeah, yeah, that's where I'm at. Peeking behind the curtains, Sam, you've taken a bit of a bold move.
Yeah, well, you gave me the go ahead. So, so Ian mentioned on the podcast about booking in some holidays, and he can be a bit of a bugger for sticking to things like that. Like he does like to have time off and stuff, but getting those scheduled ones in and stuff can be hard work, and getting him to have that sort of complete break. So a few team members have particularly been encouraging us over the last few months that actually now the kids are older, why don't we just have a few days away, the two of us sort of thing, because we've done loads in the company sort of thing. And we'd sort of mentioned, or we discussed personal bits at work anyway on some level of when you're chatting to team members and stuff. So you sort of say that it is stressful having some of the environment that we've had recently with the company and stuff. So a few of them have been suggesting about having a bit of time to us, and both of us I think had been like, it doesn't really work, you've got to organize school runs, etc. It's been 9 years. Yeah, it was for our 10th wedding anniversary, so 9 years since we have been away, the two of us abroad. We went for a few days then.
You're avoiding the punchline.
I know now. So we've booked 4 nights away in Mallorca, and I can't wait. With no children, it's an adults only hotel, and I can't wait.
And we go in less than a week.
Yeah. So we actually go in 2 days' time. When I booked it, I think it was just over a week we went in when I booked it.
So to be clear, when I mentioned this on the podcast, I think 2 weeks ago now, right? It was within the next 13 weeks.
Yeah. So in my defense,
it was 1.3 weeks.
What I did off the back of that is I spoke to a team member. You've been mentioning about me and Ian having a few days off. How would you feel if we went to short notice? And they were like, yeah, wouldn't affect. Things are good. So I looked at what sort of worked in schedule wise. Fridays we do strategic planning anyway. We can sit on a plane and do strategic planning. We'll still discuss business elements when we're on holiday because it's part of us, it's part of our life. It's no different to sitting there and having chats about the kids, even though we haven't got the kids with us. It's part of who we are, part of our life. So it'll be discussed anyway. So there's no difference in still like discussing bits on the plane of general bits to do with the company, in my opinion. And neither of us find those aspects stressful or, it's just part of having conversations. It's still spending time together sort of thing. So those still get done. So we go Friday to Tuesday. Monday, we always have team meetings for the majority of the day anyway, going through bits. So it was only really sort of a Tuesday, because Monday afternoon is reserved for team members. So it's only really the Tuesday that there were work elements to consider. Neither of us had anything booked in, so we didn't have to rearrange meetings or anything. So it was, perfect timing. And realistically, it doesn't have the impact on the company that it would do if we went, say, Tuesday to Friday or Monday to Thursday, because we're taking the weekend as part of that. So it's only really one working day as such out of the company. But yeah, it'd be really nice to get away, have some time to ourselves. And I think you come back so refreshed off something like that. And I think specifically more so on this one, in the fact that we don't get time away without the kids. So yeah, this will be really nice. So yeah, we've sort of gone all out. We've gone for adults only, very nice hotel. We've booked one of the lounges at the airport, which will be the first time we've been in there. So that'd be nice. What do you think about getting away? Are you going to come back refreshed, full of ideas, having discussed God knows how many different theoretical things that you want to implement while we're away?
I'm not sure if I've got loads. I think I'm quite focused at the moment. I know where the business is going. I know what we need to do. And I'm not going to be doing it. I'm going to get other people to do it, because that's my new approach.
Not sound like the no. So the second part does, but not coming up with lots of different things or directions of what we could do or where we could head. That does not sound like the Ian I know. I'll get back to you on that one after our holiday, whether Ian has actually not come up with anything or whether I've been bombarded with lots of different ideas.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. And you know what? I'm sort of going to slightly move us towards like the closing elements as well, because I'm going to go, I think it's the power move.
Yes, definitely.
So yeah, from my perspective, I think I probably wouldn't have booked it quite yet, maybe that soon. But I'm rolling with it, and I get your arguments. Your arguments were the longer we leave it, the colder it gets, the less it's going to feel like we've caught the sun. Particularly for you, you want that real hot weather. So yeah, I think it's awesome and power move. I think it's the best move of the week, and I think.
Do you know what I think did it for me was the fact that you said about how refreshed you've come back, and you know your mind's just in the right place now, focused, ready to get things sorted, fresh ideas, and you've got things rolling, feel really good. And I thought I came back off holiday and I didn't have that. Yeah, and normally we both do. So I think that's what it came off the back of it. And obviously it was great that you actually mentioned it during the podcast to say that you want to get a few more in. So I thought I'd take that opportunity. I'll get in contact with the team member before I speak to you, so that as soon as you come back and go, well, I don't know if I can have any time off, I go, well, actually, we already sorted that.
On that note, I think that nicely draws this to a close. And next week, there'll still be a podcast as normal. We will not be doing it from Mallorca. We are not taking the equipment. We're not doing that. It's non-business to a degree. Like we said, we're going to
Ian wants to come back with a wife from Mallorca, not having taken all the podcast stuff with us.
Yeah, but I think to wrap it up, yeah, thanks everybody for listening. We will be back nice and fresh, ready to go. We'll see you in a week's time.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Leaky Bucket podcast. I'd love it if you could help spread the message by clicking subscribe and leaving a review. Also, please do reach out to me on LinkedIn and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can also find more info and links in the show notes below. See you next time.